Hi folks, I'm Jim. Welcome to the channel. Time for a Friday Reads reading update. Actually on a Friday for a change. Well, I wanted to do a quick video just to update everyone who follows the channel that I did finish the Penguin Classics edition of Suetonius, the 12 Caesars. Finished it this morning and I wanted to give some first impressions of it before I forget them. And then I'll also talk about 3 other books that I'm actively reading. But first of all, on Suetonius, very entertaining history. You have the 12 Caesars that are talked about, in case you're curious and you're keeping score. This would include Julius Caesar, afterwards deified, Augustus, Tiberius, Gaius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero, Galba, Otho, Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. And this covers that early Roman Empire period up through around maybe 100 AD, I want to say. Let me see if I can get the dates. So Julius Caesar is 49 to 44 BC when he was in power. And then it takes you all the way up through Domitian, which would be, about 96 AD or Common Era. So that's 150 years of Roman history captured here. Suetonius is really an entertaining historian. He loves to gossip about these Roman emperors. He is never shy of sharing a salacious detail. And the overall impression I get of these Caesars is they were awful human beings, by and large, like deeply flawed, criminal, rapacious, vindictive, cruel, decadent. Yes, there's variety amongst the different leaders, but we talk about how power corrupts. Case in point, read the 12 Caesars by Suetonius. Is Suetonius biased? Maybe. I don't know a whole lot about Suetonius. He seems to have drawn on a lot of source material and anecdote, and he was even currently alive in the later emperors he talks about, kind of coincide with his life. But these were just disgusting people, these leaders. People like Nero and Caligula and Domitian and some of these emperors didn't last very long. They might have been in power for like a couple months before they got assassinated or poisoned, or some army came in to take power. So yeah, it's a lot of decadence, a lot of ugly stuff, but a lot of really fascinating history. And to put things into context, like, so what else was going on? Well, the empire was at its height during the reign of Augustus, for instance. But you also have, things going on in other parts of the empire, like things, campaigns in Gaul and Germany and in Britain. And then also the subjugation of the Jews in Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple. That's talked about later in the book. So it gives you like a sort of picture of what was going on in the empire. But mainly these are studies, these are biographies, and getting into the personalities of these emperors. Things are not really told necessarily in chronological order, so it's more of a topical organization as you move from paragraph to paragraph. So he might highlight some of the vices of an emperor in one paragraph, and then the next paragraph he's just describing what that emperor looked like. He had a paunch, he was bald, and these kinds of things. And so, that can be a little jarring as a reader, because you're expecting to read sort of like, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And then loosely, that's what's going on here in these lives, but he does take these tangents. I found that the second half of the book read a lot faster than the first half, but that's probably for a couple reasons. One is that the The early biographies are longer. They might last 40, 50, 60 pages. The latter biographies are much shorter because these emperors didn't serve for as long, or they were not as important. And so really after the life of Nero, things really speed up quite a bit. I thought it might be fun to rank these emperors just on my impressions of like best to worst. I would probably say, well, with the proviso that I don't really like any of these emperors, but Augustus I think you'd have to put in the top slot because he was, you know, he established the Pax Romana, and you know, he had a long reign that was like relatively peaceful. I would say it's hard to place Caesar in this order because he was not really officially an emperor, but he had a huge impact. But he also got this ball rolling in the direction of these emperors, the empire, the end of the republic. So I can't really give him a whole lot of credit for that. Maybe Vespasian would come in number 2. Claudius sort of fares well. But then, you know, there's a whole cast of characters who are just really gross, like Gaius Caligula, Nero. Nero would definitely be down towards the bottom. Galba, Otho, Vitellius, Titus, Domitian. Yeah, you're talking, and Tiberius wasn't much to write home about either. He succeeded Augustus. But boy, you get all the warts and all the gossip in this book. So recommended, the 12 Caesars. If you're into history, Roman history, biography, this is a classic. This edition was translated by by Robert Graves, with an introduction by Michael Grant. And yeah, really, really good stuff. Let me see if I can pick out a select passage to give you a flavor for Suetonius's voice and translation. Maybe we'll pick a paragraph about Nero. Nero showed no greater mercy to the common folk or to the very walls of Rome. Once in the course of a general conversation, someone quoted the line, "When I am dead, may fire consume the earth." But Nero said that the first part of the line should read, "While I yet live," and soon converted this fancy into fact. Pretending to be disgusted by the drab old buildings and narrow winding streets of Rome, he brazenly set fire to the city. And though a group of ex-consuls caught his attendants armed with tow and blazing torches, trespassing on their property, they dared not interfere. He also coveted the sites of several granaries solidly built in stone near the Golden House. Having knocked down their walls with siege engines, he set the interiors ablaze. This terror lasted for 6 days and 7 nights, causing many people to take shelter in monuments and tombs. Nero's men destroyed not only a vast number of apartment blocks, but mansions which had belonged to famous generals and were still decorated with their triumphal trophies. Temples, too, vowed and dedicated by the kings and others during the Punic and Gallic wars. In fact, very ancient monument of historical interest that had hitherto survived. Nero watched the conflagration from the tower of Maecenas, enraptured by what he called the beauty of the flames. Then put on his tragedian's costume and sang the sack of Ilium from beginning to end. He offered to remove corpses and rubble free of charge, but allowed nobody to search among the ruins even of his own mansion. He wanted to collect as much loot and spoils as possible himself. Then he opened a fire relief fund and insisted on contributions, which bled the provincials white and practically beggared all private citizens. Like I said, disgusting, gross, insane, a madman, and just it gives you a sense. Maybe this is where we get a lot of our sense of Roman decadence from. I don't think he's the only source of that, but yeah, the 12 Caesars, salacious reading, but a lot of fun to read. And you know, it makes me think a lot about the Roman Empire and about how ambivalent I am about the Roman Empire and Roman civilization. On the one hand, it's foundational. We owe so much to Greece and Rome in Western civilization, and yet it was fraught with violence, with oppression, with cruelty, with hypocrisy, with gross, meaningless bread and circuses, the pop culture of Rome. And in a lot of ways, it sets some patterns that we're still haunted by in our current civilization. And I'm also like reading at the time, currently, City of God by St. Augustine. And that is that book is situated right after Rome has been sacked by the barbarians, and you can see Augustine is sort of in a spirit of out with the old and with the new, which would be Christianity and an empire that's oriented around that new religion. You can understand why Christianity rose amidst all this decadence and the violence of the empire and the gross luxuries and the, unbridled wealth and rapaciousness. And, of course, I'm not here to sing the praises of Christianity or the Middle Ages. You can assess that on your own for what it's worth. Like, they were not without their problems too. But let's not be too rosy-eyed about the Roman Empire. So, like, Suetonius really gives you an unvarnished view of the real trashy biographies, but I have to admit they were fun to read. Next, let's talk about books I'm actively reading. Mentioned these on the channel already. About a little more than halfway through Edward Abbey, Desert Solitaire. Just incredible nature writing. This is creative nonfiction, much in the spirit of people like John Muir and Henry David Thoreau, and I also think of Pilgrim at Tinker Creek by Annie Dillard. But he has his own flavor. This is like at times crude, gnarly, cantankerous. The back cover copy, I think, really captures this well. This is a quote from Edwin Way Teal in the New York Times Book Review. This book may well seem like a ride on a bucking bronco. It is rough, tough, combative. Certainly true. The author is a rebel and an eloquent loner. He is a passionately felt deeply. His is a passionately felt, deeply poetic book. It has philosophy, it has humor, it has its share of nerve-tingling adventures set down in a lean, racing prose in a close-knit style of power and beauty. Very well said in that review. Captures the essence, the sort of ambiguity of his style. It can be deeply poetic in his writing about nature and like all the life in the desert, but also the desolateness of the canyon lands in Utah and then the Colorado River Valley running into Arizona and into the Grand Canyon. Very poetic, some beautiful writing, and a flexible style, like a muscular style. But it is rebellious, it's tough, it's combative. You're not going to agree with everything he says in this book, or some things in here are going to make you uncomfortable. And so it's very unique. I like how he put it, an eloquent loner. You're getting that vision of nature through the lens of Edward Abbey. I'll have more to say about this when I finish it. Right now I'm in this long chapter where he and a friend are rafting down the Colorado River from Utah towards the Grand Canyon, and they want to see this this valley really for the last time before it gets inundated with the waters of Lake Powell. The dam at Lake Powell was being built, and he wanted to travel down the river to see these canyons that were going to be submerged. And there's a lot of poignancy in that raft trip as they go down the river. So that's the chapter I'm currently reading right now. I'll quote some stuff out of it after I finish it. Also making really good progress in Clea by Lawrence Durrell, Book 4 of the Alexandria Quartet. There's, I don't want to give too much of the plot away, but our narrator, who was really the narrator of the first volume, Darcy, right? Is that his name? He has been away from Alexandria for a long time, and now we're in the middle of World War II, and he has come back, and so you get this feeling of like, this is very much an ensemble novel. So there's a whole cast of characters, and there's affairs, and there's, you know, attractions, and there's conspiracies, and there's intrigue, and espionage, and all these things happening. And it's during World War II. So like Alexandria is like kind of getting, like the docks are getting bombed at night, and but the city is still kind of limping along. And here our narrator comes back, and he is reacquainting with these people that he's been away from for years, and they've gotten older, their lives have changed. I just finished a chapter where he met up with his old flame Justine, who was the that's the name of the first volume of the quartet, and she has really changed a lot. She and her husband are basically living on their house arrest, and you know, the characters do a lot of reflecting on the passing of time and what's happened to them as they get caught up. And the Clea character I haven't really encountered yet, but our narrator is just about to like find her. He's like kind of going to meet up with her soon. But Mount Olive, like he's talked with, and all these characters, Balthazar, all these characters are kind of like popping back up. I will say that I really love Durrell's style, but he is prone to the purple prose. And also there are a lot of like long extended quoted passages of dialogue where these people are really waxing poetic and they're trying to sound profound, or they're quoting people who are no longer around. And it feels like Durrell is really aiming high to maybe hit some high notes. And sometimes he's straining to do that. It feels a little forced, a little bit like trying too hard, I guess, to be profound. I don't want to be too hard on it because I really do love his style, but you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt when you're reading this book, that he's going to go over the top sometimes. There are a lot of like meaningful ruminations on love and desire and identity. And, it's a book that wants to make you think, but it's also telling a story. And I think if you approach this in the spirit of it being an ensemble novel, you'll be able to grasp all 4 volumes. It's sort of looking at things from different points of view. And now I'm getting the feeling like he's trying to pull it together by revisiting all these characters now that all this time has passed. And it's all set in the context of World War II. So I'm not exactly sure like what our main plot line is yet, but it's coming along. I'm enjoying the read. I don't think it's going to take me too long to get through it. This is actually a big surprise for me, is how much I'm enjoying this book by John Updike. It's called S. It's, I don't know if you would call it a pastiche or it's a riff off of The Scarlet Letter by Hawthorne, and it's modernized. And its main character is Sarah Worth. who it is described in the dust jacket flap as a latter-day Hester Prynne, who has become enamored of a Hindu religious leader called the Arhat. Sarah is a New Englander. She leaves her husband. She goes to Arizona to live on this commune, and then she mingles with all these other pilgrims. And it is just an interesting plot so far. And it's an epistolary novel, so it's written as letters. Most of the letters are coming from Sarah, but you have some other voices creeping in there too. She does a lot of hard labor on this commune, but then she winds up working in an office kind of like closer to the guru. And you can see that maybe where that's headed if you think of the Scarlet Letter, but we'll see. But anyway, she's writing a lot of letters home, and there's letters to her psychiatrist, her doctor, her husband, her kid Pearl, her mother, her friends. There's business correspondence. It's a real nice variety of letter writing styles. And also sometimes she'll make a tape, record into her portable tape recorder. So it's a tape transcript that she then mails to like a friend or relative. So, and through that, you're getting this like portrait of who Sarah is, why she's there, what she's interested in. What pleasantly surprises me about this book so far, and I'm maybe like a third of the way through it, is initially I wasn't really trusting the voice of the protagonist. I felt it was too much John Updike and not enough the character. Well, now my assessment of that has changed a little bit. I feel like her voice has come alive more. I'm buying into it. I'm suspending my disbelief. Yes, she has the eye for observation that her author has as well, but she has a personality that's coming across. She's a fun character to watch. And I'm interested in her fate. The other big pleasant surprise was how much legitimate Indian philosophy and religion is in here. In fact, the book includes a glossary of terms because Updike is using so much of that terminology stemming from the Hindu tradition, the Buddhist tradition, the yogic traditions. So you can learn a lot about Eastern religion through this. And at least, I don't know if you can learn, yeah, I guess you could learn a little bit about it, but it's more like, it looked to me like Updike really did his homework, and he's having fun swimming in these waters, which are maybe a little bit more different for him, coming from a Protestant Christian background. There's also something that I think Updike is capable of doing really well, and that is sort of lightly satirizing cultures and societies. So this ashram is not without its flaws, not without its hypocrisies. They are also not fully accepted in Arizona. There's a lot of resistance and suspicion about them. And all that is portrayed really well here with a little bit of a gentle sense of humor, subtly mocking. Maybe that's too strong a word. But there's moments in here that are really funny. And the yuppie New England culture, which she has abandoned to live on the ashram, that also is subject to his satiric gaze. And in her letters, she does a good job making fun of some of that stuff as well. So yeah, you never know what you're going to quite get from Updike, but this one is a pleasant surprise so far. I'm into it. And let me see if I can pick out a passage from one of her letters or tapes to give you a sense of what her voice sounds like. Yeah, so I believe this is one of the tape transcripts that Sarah sends to her friend Midge, and this will give you a sense of her voice, her chattiness, her powers of observation, her enthusiasm about learning new things about this religion and the magnetism of the spiritual leader. So let's just have fun reading this a little bit. Next day, just a few minutes before I go and face the hideous dinner brawl. I really shouldn't say that. They do a wonderful job here organizing things, but the Arhat spiritual magnetism has just overwhelmed the facilities. A setup designed for 400 is being asked to house and feed nearly 1,000. With a lot of day trippers and curiosity seekers on the weekends. It's what Charles used to say of the hospital. No matter how many beds you put in, there's always one sick person left over. I found a place to be by myself a few minutes, though some of our group leaders tell us a wish for privacy is very pro-ego and anti-ashram. I don't know. Buddha was always doing it, and the Arhat never tells us to go everywhere in a noisy, smelly bunch like some of these sannyasins who seem to want to. Obviously, you need to be by yourself just for spiritual sanitation now and then. When I think of all those days rattling around in my old house, going from room to room, picking up, waiting for Pearl to get back from school, or Charles from work, or for somebody just to call, or the mailman to come up the drive with his Laura Ashley catalog, 14 rooms and 4 baths and 2.5 acres of lawn, all for me. It seems obscene in a way, and yet a kind of paradise. Isn't it funny how paradise always lies in the past or the future, never exactly in the present? Just last night in his darshan, the Arhat said there can be no happiness in the present as long as there is ego. He pronounces it ego. As long as there is ego, the happiness, I really can't do his accent, but he has the strangest, longest S's, different from any sound we make. Sub-happiness flies away, like sub-pet bird and sub-pet cat. They cannot exist in the same room. When sub-master does not preside, sub-one eats the other. I make it sound ridiculous, but in fact I could listen for hours. It's like a fist inside me relaxing, like a lens that keeps opening and opening to let in more and more light. Even when I don't understand the words, literally, from the way they're pronounced, something very beautiful is going on inside me by orderly stages, the way something grows, a few more cells every day. For instance, Midge, I'm sitting out in the rocks about a half mile from the chakra, you know, where the fountain of karma plays, and there's a kind of natural bench out here where I am. I mean, under what they call in Arizona cypress, with these drooping gray-blue limbs and little brown berries seemed like tiny soccer balls, and I wish I had words to say how charged it all feels, how pregnant just the rockiness of the rocks seems, the little silvery veins of some mineral, the little loose heaps of rosy dust, the parallel ridges showing all the millions of years of sedimentation, and then too the breeze and the cypress with its resiny essence, and the distant mountains like wrinkled tissue paper. How sacred, really, and the whole matter of whether God exists or not, which I always thought rather boring, is just plain transcended. It seems so obvious that something exists, something incredibly and tirelessly good, an outpouring of which the rocks and I and the perfect blue sky with its little dry horsetails are a kind of foam, the foam on the crest of all these crashing waves, these outpourings all through the eons of time, and yet terribly still, too. I know I'm not expressing it very well. There is something in everything, its isness, that is unutterably grand and consoling. I just feel terribly full. I feel, how can I put this, like I'm carved out of one big piece of crystal and exactly fitted into a mold of the same crystal. Tell Irving I feel motionless. Ask him if this is samarasa. My happiness is deeper than I've ever felt happiness before. It's as if there is a level the sun has never reached before. He makes it possible, the Arhat. He permits it. His voice, his glow. God, I love him, even though he makes me suffer. Love, he says, is agony. Agony, Midge. That's a little sampling from S by John Updike. Like I said, enjoyable, more than I expected. That's fun when that happens. We'll see where he takes it. Yeah, so that's basically where I'm at with my active reading list. What have you all been reading? Did you finish any books this week? Do you have any reactions to these books? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.